Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Friday, January 28th at 11:22 a.m. Probably one of the most sought after streams of the week, of the month, of the year thus far. We're going to put a lot of puzzle pieces together. We're going to try and understand where the heck we are, where the heck the market's heading, what the hell went down the last couple of days, and what does it all mean? What do we know? What do we know? I'm an engineer. I'm a software developer by trade, and I understand almost to the entirety of extent what the hell these people are building in the crypto space. What is this software? I understand the algorithms. I understand the primitives and the data structures and the logic and the reasoning and the monetary policy and how it's all executed, the nature of blockchains, the nature of immutability, the nature of this intermediation, the nature and significance of decentralization. This is, if you want narrative and more in depth discussion or to that end, that's Raoul Pal's type of conversation you want to listen to. So he talks macro as well. He's a legacy, old school, veteran macro economist, and I I have my understanding, and that's what I try and do. I try and put all the puzzle pieces together, and I try and tell you a story from all the information that I aggregate, all the brilliant macroeconomists that I listen to that have much more experience than I, and I try and distill it into the things that I believe are actionable pieces of information based on my understanding, based on my digestion of the information. So, where does that lead us? That leads us to basically a macro shit show that's going on. Let's pull up the main screen. We're going to look at the charts, but clearly, I want to talk about what's going on with Wonderland. And generally speaking, there's nothing too complicated to think about. It's a social media shit show. It has fear written all over it, and that's the most important emotion to get out of it. I don't think there's any complexities with regard to malicious transactions thus far, so that could get into a legal situation and stuff of that nature, loss of funds. What's pertinent is that the Treasury is still there. The Treasury can be used to purchase all W Memo and just shut down the operation, which I think would probably be the most reasonable outcome, all things considered. I have a high opinion of Daniel. He has his personality. He has expressed, authoritarian tendencies, which is not necessarily a bad thing. That depends on intent and motivation. In private conversation, he appears to be moral, quite reasonable. He expresses rationality, sympathy, regret, and all the normal emotions that are expected from someone that's not a sociopath. Be fearful of sociopaths. Be considerate of people that express empathy and actually express emotions. So I have my current opinion being that he is a person of decency. So I have a high opinion of Abracadabra. It's a brilliant piece of software. There's a variety of complexities with managing a piece of software. There's a variety of fears going around with regard to the quantity of mimic circulation versus paired stables. There's reason to be fearful of that. What's pertinent to think about is that I'm sure he's scrambling today. I'm sure Daniel's scrambling today, along with Squirrel and Merlin and guaranteed the entire team and all their partners and all their business associates and financiers, so on and so forth, to maintain stable operations of the software. The software is performing extraordinarily well. Curve is expressing why it has a moat. Curve is expressing why it has dominance and is entrenched, and the pools are working just fine. You have a capacity to buy and sell the stables that are provided by Curve with extraordinary efficiency considering pool and balance. You cannot do this on Uniswap. You can maybe do it on Uniswap v3, but not with Uniswap v3 directly. You have to do it with an aggregator or the wrapper implementation, which is exactly what Hayden Adams always said. You need third parties to facilitate execution of the desired curve for a particular LP position, which I think is ridiculous. Why I think V2 curve is heading in the right direction, and I'm very interested in solidly that's coming sooner than later. Overall, the systems are performing well. I don't see any liquidity crises in the crypto space as of yet. I don't see any failures as of yet. I'm not worried in that regard. What you want to do in a scenario or a situation like this with the market in general is be risk adverse, minimize exposure, concentrate positions. This is a seller's market. We're selling, we're not buying. There's no capital deployment in a market like this unless you have literally zero risk tolerance, which I could appreciate. That's probably what a lot of people are expressing, and I would advocate very publicly and very clearly, for the love of God, stop buying shit. This is a period of time where you're looking to scrape positions, where you're looking to trim positions. You pull back the weakest positions. This is not necessarily a time of trimming the losers and buying the winners. This is a time of trimming the losers and keeping optionality, and maybe even trimming winners because of this. It's not the equities market necessarily. The equities market is an afterthought. It's the dollar. Dollar is approaching a ridiculous line. The fact that we have a green candle here is not optimistic at all. You breach this green line to the top and dare a breach of that green line I don't know why there's a buy signal there. That is freaking frightening. People in the crypto space are looking at the the charts for crypto assets and they're freaking out. Yeah, no, one chart is an expression of the gross aggregate of forex markets in many regards. I mean, clearly individual forex markets are meaningful if you're into that type of shit, but the DXY is a decent manifestation or a decent representation of the dollar versus. So a buy signal here, we breach this green line to the upside. And then what I do is I look to the gross aggregate of the bond market, which is 10 years. And bottom line is, if we see the DXY dare it breach this green line and push towards 100, and dare this chart breach the 50 SMA, the 100 SMA, and push towards the 200 SMA on the monthly, every single risk asset is going to shit itself just really, really bad. Equities markets are going to completely implode. There's going to be a liquidity event. Why? Because the expression of a bond sell off in the face of dollar bullishness is an expression of collateral shortfall, dollar demand. Oh, goodness. What happens when you have dollar demand? You need collateral. You need to sell stuff to get the dollar demand. Bye equities market, bye crypto space. It's going to be a black hole with a bottom that cannot be seen. Basically, you got March 2020 written all over it, and so on and so forth. It's just that's the bleakest of situations when these types of chart price actions start to play out, or chart directionality starts to play out. Let's see who's in the stream. We'll go through the charts. I hope that recaps a lot. Um, Let me start off with my portfolio. I think that'll give people a little bit of comfort. I haven't taken many um, many actions. I've pulled back Spell, obviously. I think the entire market is primed for bearishness. I see bear flags all over the place. Don't trust the market. You have to get a sense that every market is at the mercy of the average market actor, and they are weak. The general public is weak, and in the face of very bearish macroeconomic conditions, everyone folds. And I feel bad for the equities markets probably the most. Retail just keeps buying, and they're going to run out of steam. So I pull back Spell a bit. I would like to pull back anything. I don't want to single out Spell. This is a time where I want to pull back anything and have optionality and choices. We're at the mercy of the average market actor. I have strong feelings about a variety of platforms. Abracadabra is brilliant software, and I am very excited to be part of SPEL and that revenue stream. We just need to get past this instability. We need to get past yesterday's Abracadabra and Wonderland Insanity. Uh, the pools need to rebalance. Not that they're off peg by much at all. In fact, the pegs are ridiculously strong. There's a lot of all stablecoins in circulation at this point. Um, I can't pull back on anything else. Everything else has a variety of restrictions. Multi does not have liquidity. Frax is all locked between CVX FXS and VFXS. Curve, I did exit my CVX CRV position. I have a large VE CRV position. I do not need overexposure. This is a large position. If we neglected my dollar stablecoins, um, it's a large part of the portfolio. So one of the most important things I've been trying to express to family members is you cannot assess your portfolio relative to all-time high. I'm a contrarian thinker. You're going to waste your time. You're going to drive yourself nuts. Assess your portfolio from where you started. How much growth did you have year over year? Assess on a yearly basis, or maybe assess relative to how much capital you put into the system to start with. You know, if you put in 100 grand and you're at $1 million, you're doing pretty damn good. There you have additional exposure to assets. Cool. So you're up 10x and you got additional assets to go along with it. If you have the $1 million in cash, and let's say your portfolio is 2 million and you're at 5, you can say, oh my God, I had 5 and I'm down to 2. No, you had 100 grand and you got $1 million in cash and $1 million in assets. You're playing this market like a freaking pro. So watch the perspective on the way you look or the way you measure your success over time. Um, Tabsy, hello, I'm ready for a 5 hour stream. It's not going to be a 5 hour stream. I have a capacity to condense all this stuff that I see in my mind into a mere 30 minutes to 45 minutes. 49 people in the stream, 13 likes. We can do better. So overall, you guys know I post on Discord basically the current portfolio balance. Any swap or multi is the largest position. I think V Spell is an extreme market maker. I look forward to Curve reattaining stability. I still have I have good feelings about CVXCRV. Um, I flip flop back and forth with regard to TouchNode's ideology about CVX being outperforming with regard to bribes, Paraswap's getting into bribes. But the technicals all look like shit. This is the problem. You can have a great asset, you can have a great income asset, but the technicals are devastating. So you got to measure the position size versus the insanity going on in the market, versus your degree of risk tolerance versus degree of protection. You have a fiduciary responsibility to deploy. You need to protect your portfolio relative to the capital you put in to the space to create the portfolio. You need to. It's a fiduciary responsibility. These technicals look like shit on the weekly. We're below the 50 SMA on the weekly. I would like to see the weekly close in 2 days, 8 hours above the 50 SMA, which would be a bit of confluence suggesting a previous resistance flip support. As I said in Twitter earlier today, resistance flip support is an expression of strength. Support holding as support is an expression of weakness. And support flip resistance is an expression of downright fear. You evacuate those positions. Evacuating a position does not entail you have any distaste for the protocol at all. You might love the protocol, and that's okay. You don't hold allegiance to an asset, you hold allegiance to yourself. This is a game of predators and prey. This is a game of survival in the fittest. You must survive. That's a good one. You hold allegiance to yourself. And that's the truth. Markets, no matter where they are a game of Darwin and natural selection. And this is why my empathy is extended towards equity markets, because markets are clearly an expression of predator prey psychology. It's a process of concentrating wealth from the persons who least understand the markets to the persons that most understand the markets. And when I say understand the markets, I'm predominantly talking about psychology. It's not even necessarily market psychology, it's just human psychology in general. The notion of desire and greed and fear and logic, because logic is grossly absent. So those that deploy, oh, the asset went down, I get to buy more. I can buy it at a cheaper price. No, don't buy it at a cheaper price. Look at this bear flag. This is Love the protocol, and I can't wait to own more. I still have a relatively large position. I still got $271,000 worth of spell. But this is a bear frickin' flag if I've ever seen one. So you reduce exposure and you measure your optionality relative to the amount of capital you put into the space. And maybe you were mid-cycle, and maybe you're down and underwater. So that produces greater complexities. Next cycle, you'll be early because look, you're in now. And if look, you got in mid 2019, late 2019, you were pretty early, and you probably got hammered a bit. But 2020 came around, and March 2020, well, May is after they juiced the economy. The markets were off to the races for the last 2 years. So wait for macro conditions to stabilize. You're in early. You're probably going to get hammered a fair amount. We all are, I included. And the next cycle, because it all operates in cycles. You know that whole the halving cycle. It's not the fucking halving. It's monetary cycles. It's all about monetary cycles. And what I see is really a compression of 2008 to 2020, compressed into 2020 to 2022. Things at a tipping point, boys and girls. It'd be nice to see S&P futures close above the 50 SMA on the weekly. About 5 hours and 30 minutes remaining. Let's take a look at the monthly real quick. Yeah, it doesn't mean shit. So I don't. That'd be nice to see that, but the 10 SMA in the monthly. That's how distorted the monetary system is, or at least the equities markets, specifically in this regard as we're looking at the chart. This is a horrible position. This is approach. You see what this is approaching. Aside, before I continue that thought, there's three things to look for confluence. First is trend formation, the weakest. Second is moving average, support and resistance, right in the middle. Strongest is price action. So where are we? Drawing a line. Drawing a line. What the fuck is that? Excuse me. Horizontal line. Okay, you're approaching, so you're below the 10 SMA on the monthly, you're approaching a support. So it held a support, but support holding a support is weakness. It's not fear. Like if this fell below and closed below, and next month this previous support holds as resistance, that's panic. That's fear. You exit, you trim, you cut back, you gut it down to a relatively small position in that scenario. But this is an expression of weakness right here. Support holding support. That's what I said earlier. Now, obviously, resistance holding support is another story, which we could give an example here over on the Frax chart. Up 24% today on a solid bounce. But if you look here at this green line, that's a previous resistance holding as support. So this is an expression of strength. Clearly, you don't have full confluence. You got a relatively scary bear flag in many regards. Not really a flag. Not really a flag. Now on the 1 hour, I mean, it's not really a flag. That looks like, I guess, a double bottom on the 1 hour. And it's pushing above the guppies, which is nice to see. Moving average lines. But what's most important, really, not the weekly, the daily. Oh, even that, it's nice to see. But on the weekly, you clearly see a resistance holding support, not a support holding support. We're not in fear, which is very interesting. We're not in fear territory yet, where previous supports are flipping resistance, and that's when people start to panic, and that's when that's when you trim, and that's when you gut positions down to nothingness. This is a perfect period of time to exercise proper risk assessment, risk management, to restructure the portfolio for the fact that the market is weak, and protect yourself. Imperative. Let's go through some comments. I've been rambling. Happy Friday, Vincent. Dan's in the house. Looking forward to learning more about Keeper and Aave. They're all getting hammered. Aave's chart looks like shit. Keeper's getting hammered. It's down really bad. I am interested in both those assets as the market starts to turn around. Keeper Fixed Forex, as well as the Keeper Network, is an extremely powerful technology. Aave V3 is a massive deal. Those boys are seriously professional. The software is brilliant, and it will play an integral part of the crypto space in the following years. Paraswap's a big deal. It's an aggregator. It falls into the same camp as 1inch in many regards. Malik, we can do better. Angelo, hey, hey. John, we all wrecked yet? I hope not, guys. I hope you have a capacity to overlook your desire to have exposure to assets. People just love buying stuff. They're like, oh, this is the bottom. It's going to go up. It's incredible. The fundamentals are strong as ever. Useless. Useless stories. Don't tell yourself that. The market is only as strong as its weakest actor, and the weakest actor has zero strength at all. We will will this into existence, my friend. Do not tempt yourself. Dan, it's a shame when good intentions mix with a terrible judgment call. Thoughts on Danny's take currently? Danny's hit hard. He's down big financially. I feel bad for him. He and I empathize with him. It's not sympathy. I empathize. He's a good guy. And this is a shit situation, and he has very strong developer capabilities. He has an extremely strong developer network. He's extremely financially savvy. He's done extremely well. I mean, see, he's just down a lot of capital, and so I empathize with Danny, and I hope everything works out better. And that's it. I really do. Aaron's in the house. John McGuire. When I pulled my stables out of Mimpool on Curve yesterday, they were all 92% Mim. Okay, well that was the pool balance at the time, so that's why when you pulled these stables out, it was that balance. I wouldn't look too far into it. Other than that, Curve has a capacity to service this kind of market under that conditions. That's the power of the V2 pools. What do we know? We know that we never know. All right, fine, Aaron. You got a deal. I agree to that. John Daniel showed some poor judgment. Yes, he did, and that's it. Don't look into it any further. It's a waste of effort. Everyone expresses poor judgment. I don't, obviously, if $1 billion was lost, that would have been a shit show. But all things said and done, that's the extent of it. Poor judgment. I don't think much more will come of it other than the market just being extremely expressive of fear. Weibull Stomp, yeah, yeah. John, what were all those large movements? The wallet of seafood character, con man. Who knows? We'll see. I'm sure more information will come out, more analysis will be done, and we'll see how this unfolds. I don't give too much thought to him because I'm more interested in understanding the markets and how we move forward from here, and more interested in expressing empathy for Danny, and I'm more interested in seeing positive or at least results, and moving past, and conclusions, and better understanding and implication, shit like that. We're not an investigative channel, bruh. I'm just saying. Hit the likes, MFers. We can do much better. 61 people in the stream, 22 likes. We can do better. Dan, if you didn't keep CFO on board, that makes an issue. Folks think about it way too much. Do you guys own W memo position? Have I talked to you guys at all over the last 2 years? I'm pretty sure I do a stream 3 days a week. How have I defined it? It's a damn red herring. Focus on the assets they were accumulating. Same thing with Ohm and any of the damn forks redacted. They're accumulating convex and frax for a reason. They built the platforms for a damn reason, to accumulate assets. If they built them to accumulate assets, those are the assets that I want. Not their asset is a red herring. I always told you guys that. There's nothing more to think about. You shouldn't have had exposure to any of that insanity. If he didn't keep Sifu, I read that. Miko. Luckily, I just put one into memo. I'm not in a hurry to sell. Obviously, that's subjective. I wish you the best with regard to exposure to an extraordinary shit show. Doctor, well, 1% is, I can get behind 1% plays. 1% plays is how you change your portfolio and head in the right direction. I'm not totally, I'm not totally fond of the Olympus narrative. Now, bear in mind, uh, it's an extraordinary treasury builder. So I think what's going to result in hindsight from the Olympus monetary policy is it is an extremely useful component for an initial stage of a robust monetary policy. It works. It's great, groovy, grand. Run it for a month, and then frankly, Wonderland was heading in a decent direction. Run the Olympus protocol for a month. Sell bonds, sell them aggressively, build a treasury, cut off the bond sales, and then convert the treasury into a revenue producing machine, deploying capital to generate revenue streams, deploy a VE implementation so the holders of the asset are generating revenue, and you turn it into basically a pass-through DAO where the owners of the DAO own the revenue stream, their respective proportionality of it. Then they could vote on how to manage the DAO, how to manage the capital, the treasury, all the stuff in the treasury. What kind of revenue streams? Maybe they want to purchase something. If you have a couple $100 million, you could purchase an entire protocol. So it's pretty interesting. I just, I've been thinking very much about next generation monetary policies, and I think there's a lot that can be learned from 2021. Extraordinary amount that's being learned, and to such a degree that I have a couple of thoughts on some very novel monetary policies. We'll see which protocol picks them up first. Daniel was getting cocky in his role of Frog Nation Messiah. This was a bit of a humility check. Though he doesn't deserve the hate he's getting, he very much doesn't deserve the hate he's getting. I do agree with the expression, or what you're saying is the sentiment he was expressing. Anyone can appreciate that, and it's imperative to always have a degree of humility. And just as you said, this is a humility check. Well said. I think he appreciates that, and that's why I have my empathy for him. Mikkel Tapsy, large position, but this was just to risk maximum risk in that asset. Jesus, folks get tempted over shit that is so experimental, without over what is being touted as the reward for the risk. Risk reward, boys and girls. Watch those position sizes. This market is going to screw a lot of people. We trimmed DeFi Kingdoms for 3x a week ago, close to 19 now. Now it's at 6, 7. You killed it, bro. You killed it. Good morning, Killis. How are you? These are times when people toxicity becomes so vivid. For some reason, people lose their brains all of a sudden in challenging times. Hope Danny focuses on rebuilding. I guarantee you he is. If anyone has a read on the market with as little emotion as possible, it's myself. Am I prepared for the market to completely implode? Yes. Am I exposed to a variety of assets because they have extraordinary properties and I think they're resilient? Yes. Which assets? The ones that I think are the strongest, the ones that I think are the most systemically entrenched, that have the biggest moats, that have the biggest and probably the most observable degree of lendiness. So they're building momentum. They're critical systemic infrastructure. I got exposure to Curve. I have exposure to Curve and Convex vis-a-vis Frax. I have exposure to multi-chain, which bridges everything. There's only a couple of protocols that have a capacity to bridge the whole system, that have the scale and scope, and multi-chain has built from nothing, which is extraordinary. What do you got? You got Ren, which has the systemic infrastructure, but they have no market momentum at all. They're the underdog. Um, you have Aave, which could come in from left field and do some serious things. They have a massive amount of capital and corporate relations, so they have funding available to them, so they could do a lot. And multi-chain, I mean, multi-chain has big backing finance. It's Binance, and you look up the article for the AnySwap deal. So they got a lot of money. They got 60 mil out of that from some very big backers because it's systemic infrastructure. So, as I say, you focus on things that have momentum, that have entrenchment, they have lendiness, and they're going to get hit less. That's the truth. The things that are the best are going to get hit less. Doesn't mean they're not going to get hit hard in price. So stop buying things. This is not a buying market, everyone. Hey, no, any thoughts about the Wonderland drama? I already handled that. Booster, Captain, did you trim your spell position? Yes, indeed. I said earlier the current size of the position. I look forward to buying it as fear abates and the market for the asset evacuates as many of weak hands as possible. I think Spell has a capacity to produce extreme amounts of revenue, and I look forward to exposure to that system. Um, Gilad, how centralized their bridging protocols vary. John McGuire, Elizabeth Warren, and politicians are going to have a field day with using time as an example of need of regulation. What a mess made here. We don't need the protection, but they want control. True statements. Mitch, ICE price action is peak irrational behavior. Yes, it is. I don't expect a turnaround for things like Popsicle or any other protocol that's doing things along the lines of Popsicle, which is automated cross-chain liquidity provisioning. JIT, JIT liquidity, MEV, uh, capital extraction concepts. I think it's a big deal, but I don't think that's coming into Q3, Q4, Q1 2023. Dude, the fact, Lewis, my man, dude, the fact that you're on your stream during this carnage speaks volumes to your character. What is your opinion on the speed of the downside legacy move, and what impetus could accelerate it? I actually nailed that pretty much, my friend, when we started. My eyes were on the bond market. I follow the 10-year. If the 10-year breaches any of these moving averages to the upside, equities markets in the crypto space are going to completely get annihilated, especially if we continue to see dollar bullishness. Bear in mind, if you look at the equities market, you're seeing this wick for a very specific reason because the dollar moved down and bonds were bought. But if bonds keep selling and the dollar keeps rising, that's going to express a narrative of collateral shortage where people are selling uh, their assets and their collateral for dollars. And that'll spook the crap out of the equities market, and that thing is going to implode faster than anyone has ever seen. Polish, the best part about Noah is his story hasn't changed because his time horizon hasn't changed. Yeah, bro, I got 2030 written all over me. Equities market exposure is 2030. My equities market assets have held up very nicely. It's all commodities, it's all mining, and there's barely there's volatility, but everything is up like 10x from like it's just it's going to get hit less. You're going to have your collateral liquidations, and everyone's going to sell shit because they need dollars because of fear or maybe debt servicing requirements. But what gets hit less is a form of outperformance, and it tells you where to deploy capital when markets start to stabilize. We could see still the great rotation and value stocks over growth or whatever. We'll see. Risky crypto morning cap. This has to be good. It's a good one today. Austin cap. A lot of fear in the street. Fed wants to regulate crypto and DeFi particularly. Do you think they can oppose KYC on CRV, CVX? We'll see. We'll see. Tapsy. I meant willing the 5 hour stream into existence. No worries, Cap. We are rational. Yes, my friend. Captain, you are the voice of sanity and wisdom in this climate. Thank you so much for your contribution to educate people. It's a pleasure and an honor. You guys have helped me become who I am as well. We are still 20x since March 2020. Everything is all right. Yeah, protect that. You want to retain that 10, 15x dollar denominated, and you retain exposure to the best of the best assets with the remaining percent. And that's how you traverse, how you navigate a market like this. This is a market right now today where you're looking for shit to sell at opportune times to stabilize the portfolio in case of increased downside price action. I expect downside. The directionality of the market I see is binary. It's up or down. The market's down. It's gonna go down. There's no up in this market. If it goes up, it's going to go hit resistance and it's going to be sold. People right now are underwater. They're like, oh, please go up so I could get my money back and I'm out. That's what the general public tells themselves. That's what's going to occur. This is not a buyer's market. If you're buying, you're becoming exit liquidity for someone that is currently shitting themselves, hoping to barely get out of the market without losing money. Matthew Swaby, know your perspective is so unique. I really appreciate you sharing it regularly. It's a pleasure and an honor, my friend. Angelo, accept real world. My man. Genie Kid, what do you think about synthetics? Token that represents real life assets. It's a big deal. It's going to be years for representation of real life assets to really gain momentum and fulfill its promises in the crypto space. Um, it has helped me question the way I approach investing and constructing my portfolio. Rationality, logic, and reason above all else. Attack these markets with a story. If you cannot tell a story, I mean an eye crossing, complicated, sophisticated story about your portfolio, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're likely not heading in the right direction. Now, clearly, I call that dinner table investing, and I say that because you just need to be able to tell a frickin' story. Doesn't mean that story is going to be understood by another human. That's irrelevant. But you need to tell a frickin' awesome story. You need to get up, be able to get on a damn podium and tell a legendary story, an epic tale of holy crap, and that's what matters. Doesn't mean anyone's going to understand it, but I have called that dinner table investing in the past. Stackin, so what happened to the pizza shop on Curve? Um, this is what happened. The price point is screwed, bro. This isn't about buy low, sell high. The pizza shop still works, but if the entire macroeconomic landscape is screwed, it's going to screw people. This is about being rational. Yeah, I want a damn pizza shop, but this is called shutting down everything. This is called evacuation territory. This is I fine. I can see the hypocritical overtones and commentary getting flung my way. Um, there's not much I could say in that regard. So I would say there's things to say. For instance, don't be greedy. For instance, the amount of income that I have from assets probably ranges between $20,000 and $30,000 a month right about now, and my stable coins aren't deployed. If I deployed my stable coins for yield, I'd probably be cranking in about $50,000 a month, and that's without a 50% return on the curve position. 50% return, and I'm just thousands of dollars a day. It's like $100,000, $200,000 a month. So from my perspective, it's easy to see hypocrisy, but what I focused on was humility and avoiding greed. Looking for hundreds of thousands of dollars a month is greedy, especially in a market like this. And I assessed the amount of income that I have and concluded, obviously, very rationally, that it was greedy. And I could easily drop to a normal salary if I pull back the portfolio where it's pulling in 15 grand a month, 10 grand a month. That's still ridiculous compared to the average salary. And I'm nowhere near that. I think I'm currently pulling in 20, 25, maybe even 30. I mean, Frax alone is pulling in 15, 10, 15. So that's what happened, stacking. That's the progression of ideas in my mind that has led to the actions that I have taken. Now, pizza shop, the most important thing I could ever express to anyone is you don't hold allegiance to assets. A lot of my ideology has contradictory elements. Pizza shop, hold allegiance to an asset. That's going to lead to a bad situation. The narratives I tell you are discrete. They are siloed unto themselves. The pizza shop story is solid. It's a freaking awesome narrative. But don't get confused with any one of the narratives overriding one another. It's irrational to be greedy. It's irrational to be taking too much money. It's an irrational to hold allegiance to an asset over the portfolio. That's the bottom line. Don't neglect the other narratives for simplicity to focus on a particular narrative. I hope that helps. That was a good question, and I appreciate that. And it's not something that hits me in the wrong way, and it warrants subtle, careful, precise explanation. And I think I gave good insights. I wouldn't mind if anyone sees a contradiction. You point it out, and we will digest it and attack it to understand the thought processes, the logic, and the reason that go into the evaluation of actions that have been taken or narratives that are told. Um, Amir, thank you, Captain, for giving me my daily dose of reason. Pleasure. Malik, thoughts on Popsicle Q3, Q4, Q1 2023. What is the min APR that you're willing to accept? Staking on Aave, other assets for 7%. Yeah, if I could get 7% on 1.6, $1.7 million, that's pretty comfy. You could relax on that. Adrian M, good evening. Kronos, just wanted to say I had a stuck transaction in multi-chain and the support was absolutely top class. Tiny little bit of the protocol, and I think that's good to hear. Do you see the Fed getting inflation under control? Yeah, they're going to get it under control. They're about to tank the markets with literally a head fake. They literally head fake that they're going to raise rates and taper, and the markets look like they're ready to implode. And I'm not looking at the damn equities markets. This is a red herring. To understand what's going in the markets, you got to understand the dollar and bonds. What's going on in the equities markets is because of this. Look at this 200 EMA. Is that the SMA? Puts properties 1050 style. It's a 200 SMA. Look at this resistance flipped support on the 200 SMA. And bear in mind, this is a 50 SMA, 200 SMA, golden cross on the 4 hour. That's a golden cross. Pushing up against 97.78. And if you zoom out to the weekly, you see what that is. That's a historic resistance up here that was rejected in a bearish condition back in June of 2020. That breaches to the upside and dare it flip a previous resistance flip support. It's not going to be pretty. Or dare we push for a golden cross, the 50 SMA, 200 SMA cross on the weekly, and dare the bond market sell off. That's indicative of dollar demand. Nothing good. Yeah, and then they're going to get inflation under control really quick with a head fake. Extraordinary. Phenor, bull flag on the VIX chart? No idea. I don't look at VIX much. Those are for people trading the garbage equities markets. What part of Italy is Danny from? I do not know. Hazim. Hey Noah, how can you access your portfolio allocation in the ASFID? No, it's not in there. I do post my portfolio percent balance on Discord in the Noah's portfolio channel. Dildo Schwaggins, my man. Thanks for the insights, Cap. It's a pleasure. Edric, hey Noah, quick question. Remulti, why is the TVL so high? Is there no incentives to provide liquidity? Why are people locking their liquidity there? I think that's a great question, and I find it fascinating. Great question. Andrew, hey Noah, appreciate you and your rationality. What are your thoughts on Wednesday's Fed meeting and the 6 month time horizon for the market? It seems like very fixed numbers. 6 month time horizon. I think the market I could care less really what they say. They gave a head fake. He said, oh, we're probably going to raise rates. We're probably going to taper a little bit, and follow dollars. To understand the dollars, you want to understand the weaponization of the dollar. You want to understand Russia and Ukraine situation. You want to understand China. China basically asked the U.S. to keep the system going a couple of days ago. President Xi. And this is partially a process of inflation control for politics. They want to get reelected, and they're not going to get reelected unless they're attempting to control inflation. In the process, they're going to crash equities markets. This is what I said earlier with the Fed riding two horses with one ass. They want to control inflation, and they don't want to crash equities markets. They're not going to be able to do both. It's going to be one or the other. So as the dollar strengthens, as they head fake to raise rates and taper, that strengthens the dollar, literally just as we're seeing in the charts here, and that puts pressure on all other fiat currencies around the world. Matthew, no pizza for you. I get 20, 25 grand worth of pizza every month. I'm doing pretty good. My man. Alex, hey Noah, but no soup for you. I see your point. Don't feel like it's a flip flop, my man. We need to attack the portfolio rationally. You need to make adjustments. I got $250,000 worth of curve exposure. I got curve in the portfolio. Frax, the narrative with the Frax position is that it's exposure to curve and convex. That's the whole reason I focused on migrating the position to Frax, which was doubled after the exit of the CVX CRV position. Because who controls curve? Convex. Who controls convex? Frax. Ah! And a couple of other DAOs, but right now Frax is still the leader of the DAOs controlling convex. Alex, hey Noah, if MIM gets dragged down with the scandal, what are the most censorship resistant stablecoins left? How resistant do you think they are at this stage? Um, Frax, Frax, That's a big deal. MIM has incredible potential. I think it's going to stabilize. I wouldn't speculate on it, but I hope it does. I think I'd like to see that very much. And we'll see what happens with Luna and UST. But Frax right now is favorable. Right now has the least controversy around it, and as we see in the chart, it's expressing strength. So that's very interesting. How about that, right? Got this shit show going on with MIM and Luna, or UST, and you got Frax ripping 25% to the upside over the last 24 hours, expressing a previous resistance flip support. So you tell me, am I acting rational with the portfolio? Stacking, no hitting, my man. Just wanted to hear the rationale. CVXCRV is still printing. Yes, it is, my friend. I appreciate and I'm happy to explain always the rationale. This chart looks like shit. Just honestly, it's below the 50 SMA on the weekly. I want to see it close above the 50 SMA on the weekly in 2 days and 7 hours. I want to see this previous resistance hold as support. Let's go over to the daily. Yeah, that just looks like doo-doo pants. Currently below this green line, which was a previous resistance flip support. So you see what I'm saying, guys? This is a previous resistance that is holding currently as resistance. This is a situation of fear. That is fear written all over it. And I do not want direct exposure to fear, albeit I'm willing to entertain indirect exposure because the Frax position is a representation of the curve and convex narrative. What have we seen over the last 2 days? Curve is moated, entrenched, critical systemic infrastructure. It's invaluable. Nothing we're seeing in DeFi would be occurring if it wasn't for the service and functionality that Curve provides. It's extraordinarily stable and functional and predictable. The lindiness is through the roof. Zach, you need to check out looks. No, thank you. Revenue stream is epic, great. I don't want exposure to volatile assets unless I need to at this moment. Every investor has seemingly contradictory reactions. We all human, no worries. You have to protect your capital. We all do. And believe me, the vast majority of my capital is still exposed to assets. FXS owns 1.5% of Convex, far from ownership. Regardless, appreciate the insight and commentary. Of the DAOs, they control Convex, which means they have a meaningful expression of voting power to support their desired position. over the others. That was the point that I try and make. But Frax's control over convex is nowhere near the control of convex has over curve. Convex has totalitarian control over curve. Frax only sitting on 1%, and there's so many DAOs, and the new ones daily coming out. So this is that whole curve war shit. This is the whole narrative that Tetranode talks about, where the bribes on convex are probably more lucrative than the income stream from CVX CRV. Well, all I know in hindsight how it plays out, all I know is I didn't want redundant exposure to the same narrative. It's the curve narrative, the curve wars narrative, the he who controls curve controls the spice narrative. The he who can put a gauge on their protocol gets critical mass liquidity narrative. The he who has curve and convex prints money narrative in the form of an MMT money producer. So I have that exposure via one of the protocols that is buying the shit out of convex. Pick one. You got redacted. You got Frax. You had Wonderland with the convex position. Um, uh, Paraswap's getting into owning some CVX. Uh, um, Rook has some CVX, and you can see the breakdown. You guys have the breakdown chart of who owns what DAOs own of CVX, and the general public has CVX as well. Ponzi time, no shame. The guy knew for a month. What a joke. Yeah. Bear in mind that's an expression of emotion, and I can appreciate that. What I would say is. Uh, Did any of you guys actually buy something I told you guys is a complete red herring? One, we shouldn't have any damn exposure to it. Two, shit happens. We're all human. I'm not looking too much into it, and Danny has my support. Thank you very much. Redacted plus Olympus CDX position greater than Frax, though? Sure, okay. You add them up, anyone has greater than an individual actor's position size. Redacted being sub-DAO of Olympus. All right, all right. There's a lot of arguments that could be made. I'm never saying my ideas are completely right. We're all here to listen to my story. That's about it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. All that work not to need to trust. Well, deserve. Okay, seems like you're hating on Wonderland. Good thing none of us here actually have any. I think he's so by. I think you're so bias rationale. No, I don't like never liked the concept of Wonderland at all. In fact, that's exactly why we don't own any ohm, geom. It was always a red herring, brah. Okay? There's no bias. This is maximum rationality here. There was no need for exposure to such an asset. It was a red herring. Always told you guys that. Maybe you're new here. It's understandable. Understand your reasoning, though. Yes, my friend. Appreciate it. Man, I reject the looks until a buddy forced me to it. You're buying ownership of the NFT marketplace. Okay, that's very interesting. Something considerable. This is not a market necessarily to explore the risk curve. This is a market to be protective and to see what assets are outperforming. To get a sense of directionality, you need to look at the dollar market and the bond market. Okay, so this is a time of reflection on how you've behaved, what you've done, the actions you've taken to get you from where you were to get you to where you are right now. This is a time to reinforce, reevaluate, to solidify, to modify narratives, because at the end of the day, you're building a story that you have to tell. Have you taken a look at Stake DAO? They did have a Curve CDX pool for a while, yes, but they didn't do so well. I like Stake. I like Julian. I like them all. I like the whole Curve team. But in the end, we have to focus on outperformers, cut the losers, buy the winners. Brian, happy Friday, my friend. Last question. I'm going to wrap it up. OpenSea collects 3%. They are private owners. This is a shared ownership. OpenSea. Okay, you're catching my fancy. I'll take a peek. I'm not really interested in exploring new positions currently. It's just not something I want to do. What I want to do right now, what I want to do right now is focus on income, protected income stream, which I got. Frax prints. I got a variety of things that print. I mean, technically, um, Spirit prints. Uh, Geist is still printing like $1,500 a week. I'm not going to argue with an extra 6 grand a month. Come on, I don't want to be greedy. There's a lot coming in, and I don't need too much coming in. Don't be greedy. Please be protective. Be fearful, and respect the fear by not being tempted to deploy capital prematurely with the macroeconomic conditions looking as horrible as they are. Um, Cap is speaking. Hit that like button. Thank you, Risky Capital. 89 people in the stream, 40 likes. Late to the stream. Have you covered your thoughts on Spell already? Yes, I did, my friend. You'll see it earlier in the stream. Hit that rewind button. Um, Zach, it's all good, my friend. I appreciate it. It takes a lot for me to explore new. I'm extremely risk adverse. Thank you all. Friday, January 28th at 12:17 p.m. You guys know the deal. Tell everyone to subscribe. We try and do better. That's the whole point of the stream. We try and be rational. Doesn't mean we can't express some irrationality or some contradictions. We try and build stories to tell, and we tell our stories to one another. That's why the damn Discord forum is so meaningful. We tell our stories so we could learn from each other and we can grow, and we could call each other out when there's something questionable, when there's a contradiction or irrationality, and then in a rational conversation, we justify things, we bring supportive evidence, we present confluence, so on and so forth, and that's how we make each other better. We need to be constructive, we need to grow. And that's the epitome of what I can only hope to express. Thank you all for joining me. After party on Discord. Wish you all a wonderful weekend. Please be protective. This is a market for trimming, for optionality, and not deploying. I will see you guys on Monday. Peace.